Matter. This is Kevin Calcutt, Chair of the Norfolk Select Board. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond to the affirmative. Anita Mecklenburg.
Here.
Cece Van Tine.
Here.
And staff, when I call your name, please respond to the affirmative. Blythe Robinson.
Here.
Judith Lazardi.
Here.
And Scott Bragdon.
Here.
Thank you very much. This open meeting of the Norfolk Select Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. With that, Blythe, would you mind taking us through our agenda this evening?
Sure. It's a somewhat short agenda tonight. We have COVID-19 updates, a couple of those, an opportunity for public comment. The two action items are to consider an award of a contract for the construction of the Holbrook Street Welfield and pump station, the approval of a request by the Mayflower Council District Boy Scouts of America for their an event on September 12th. And the discussion items are updates and additions to select board policies and to discuss website postings of board correspondence, town administrator updates, and there are a few warrants to approve. And tonight, although it says there are minutes on the agenda, there are none to be approved. And we would follow with an executive session. Just one thought about the person in the waiting room. I know that there was someone who was possibly going to join the meeting regarding the Boy Scouts event. I don't recall the person's name. Perhaps that's why they're in the waiting room. And so I know Judith is listening. She might remember and maybe can weigh in on that.
I cannot remember. Possibly it could be Gregory Davis. So,
okay. And that's
yeah.
Probably the person in the waiting room.
Good enough for me. He's in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Judith.
All right, that'll bring us to our first item this evening, and that is to hear our COVID-19 updates. Go right ahead, Blythe.
So just a couple. This week we added one case to our number. We're up to 40 cases with one person who's as an active case. Not good that we're adding any, but on the flip side, trying to look at it more positively, we've had very limited increase in cases, just about one a week. We still are in the white zone as a community in the governor's map, so that's a good thing. And school openings are proceeding as planned right now. And both the Finance Director Todd Lindmark and I had meetings last week with the superintendents of both school districts to try to better understand what they think their costs will be for school to reopen this fall. I mean, a number of their costs that were already accounted for somewhat in June when we submitted our first CARES Act funds. And we are in the process of submitting our request to FEMA for things that are covered there. But we do still expect, we are going to have other costs for this year for both school districts. For Norfolk, it may be to be providing some in-person support for some students at home, additional PPE. There may be some costs for some technology, but that's been fairly well covered so far. And they are looking at having some temporary custodial help to make sure that all the cleaning protocols remain in place. For KP, they've actually been fairly successful with a couple of grants. All their technology is covered. They are also perhaps expecting some additional cleaning costs. and others similar to Norfolk. Neither school district is expecting any additional busing costs right now for a variety of reasons. And with KP, the three towns will be sharing our portion of the cost in the same formula that school was financed this year. So I can't give you a total at this moment, but we're feeling more comfortable that right now we're not approaching the $1 million we have left in that we could apply to for CARES. And we're cautiously optimistic, but like a lot of places, we can't really be sure what the school year is really going to be. I mean, we're all hopeful about what it's going to be, but we can't say for sure. So that's just an update. And those are the things I wanted to tell you about tonight.
Thanks, Blythe. We'll toss around the board for any questions. Cece, any questions for Blythe related to COVID?
No.
Anita, any questions?
Not at this time.
None from my end as well. Thank you, Blythe.
Mm-hmm.
Our next item this evening is our public comment period. This is the point of the meeting where we would open it up for anybody in attendance to share with the board or the town administrator for about 3 minutes. Any items that fall within our purview and scope are obviously what we're looking to hear about. At this time, I'll open it up for anybody who would like to take advantage of public comment by using the raise hand function located under the participants icon on the bottom toolbar. If you are unable to find the participant icon, you can wave your hand furiously at the camera. I am seeing no hands and no waving, and therefore we'll be moving on from public comment. Our next item this evening is to please consider award of a contract for the construction of the Holbrook Street Welfield and Pump Station, something we've been eagerly looking forward to. Blythe, a little bit of background, please.
Yes, so joining me tonight, as you can see on the screen, is Blair Crane, the DPW director. And he's here to be able to answer any questions that I might not be able to about this project. But very briefly, in your packet are 2 memos from environmental partners. One reviews for you the financial situation of the project overall, and the second one reviews for you the status of these actual bids. As you might recall, we went and added $173,000 to the project from retained earnings at the Springtown meeting after a review to make sure we touched base on whether we were on track with enough funds to finish this project. We determined that we needed approximately that much more to make sure we had a healthy contingency. And the result of the bids was we had, I think, about 7 or 8 bidders. The low bidder is Bisco Building Systems from Fall River, with a total base bid and an alternate for the generator for the station, $1,820,995. That will enable us to get the core work done and install the generator, which is necessary, obviously, in a power failure to be able to continue to operate the station. And it also leaves us with sufficient funds to use a contractor that we have through our surge contract for paving of the road, and a contingency of $124,000. So the contingency is a little less than we had thought about in the spring, but the engineers are comfortable with that, and this project we plan to move ahead fairly soon. So likely to get the core work done of the building before winter, and the rest of the controls and all those good things to go in the building can happen after that. So we're hopefully ready to start producing water from this well sometime in the spring and definitely before the summer. I know that the actual wells in the ground is, I think, pretty much complete, and Blair can tell you about that if you like. What I do know briefly from talking to him is that the production of those wells has been as well as we expected, if not a little bit better. So that's some good news. That's a quick overview, and happy to take, either of us can take any questions that you have.
Sure. So either Blair or Blythe, would you mind just reminding everybody what the addition of this well site will bring to the town? Because I think there's been a little bit of confusion as to the need and what will be provided once we do get this well online.
Blair, can you take that for us, please?
Absolutely. So the two wells that we have now, the two well sites that we have now, Spruce Road and Gold Street pump stations, combined average output, roughly about 960,000 gallons per day, which during the summer months is really at its maximum peak. And when you start to run these pumps day in and day out, it stresses the system more than it should. Essentially the Holbrook station will allow us to be able to take one of those offline, whether it's for maintenance, whether there's mechanical operation that needs to happen. The new station will generate, it's permitted for 400,000 a day and has a capacity of 600,000. So that's more than able to pick up any slack that we may have if there's an interference with any other of the supply.
Thanks, Blair. And just as a side note as well, clearly this doesn't resolve our water needs for the long term. This is still going to be an ongoing process as we look forward, but this does help us in the short term, correct?
That is correct, Kevin. Both the Spruce Road pump station is definitely starting to stress. Over the coming years, that will produce less and less water. So I really think that the Holbrook station is certainly a necessity.
Thanks, Blair. This time I'll open it up to questions from the rest of the board, starting with Anita.
So I just had one question. I'm new to the project, so more of a curiosity question, I guess. The new well, would it be going to the same aquifer or a different aquifer? Does this just increase our capacity to get water from the same aquifer?
Yeah, both the Holbrook and the Gold Street sources both come out of the Charles River aquifer. The watershed. So then they are licensed through DEP. So that's why there's a permitted allowance of water there. Even though we're able to draw more, obviously, if you needed to, there is a permitted amount that you're able to draw.
Thank you.
But Kevin is correct. You know, as we continue to develop the town with various housing projects, this doesn't obviate the need to continue to think about other sources, and the town has explored other ones that could be looked at again. We'll be able to rest on our success for a little while, and know that we won't need to buy water probably from another town, in the next few years. We have actually had to do that this summer on a couple of occasions. Yes. But as we continue to grow, we will have to think about where we can perhaps permit another well in the future, or work out an arrangement with another community. So.
Did you have any other questions, Anita?
I don't think so.
Thank you very much. Cece, any questions for Blair or Blythe?
No, I don't have any.
Very good. At this time, I'll open it up to anybody in attendance with questions related to our current agenda item of the Holbrook well. I am not seeing any. So with that, I will move that the board vote to award a contract for the construction of the Holbrook Street Welfield and Pump Station to Blizco Building Systems in the amount of $1,820,995, which is comprised of the base bid of $1,712,995 and alternate number one for the generator of $108,000. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a second, do we have any further discussion? I am hearing none, so we'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
Steve Antine, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
It is a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining us, Blair.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
You too. Our next item this evening is to please consider approval of the request by the Mayflower Council District Boy Scouts of America to hold a one-day outdoor Cub Scout joining event on Town Hill on Saturday, September 12th, 2020, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Blythe, would you like to give us a little bit of background?
Yes, so in your packet is an email from Christina and Gregory Davis regarding this event they want to hold the weekend after Labor Day for a joining event for the Boy Scouts. We've done our usual due diligence and just checking that no other events that would be in conflict with this and that there are no concerns by any of the departments that might be affected, and everybody's given this one a green light. So I understand, I think we have Ms. Davis here with us to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Blythe, and welcome, Ms. Davis. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us tonight.
Thank you.
What would
for
you like
allowing
to
me
tell us about
appear.
our event coming up?
Well, this is for the Cub Scouts. I've been involved with the Scouts for 20 years. This is a council-wide event. Within the council, there's 5 districts, and Metacomet District is the district I'm representing here, of which Norfolk is part of. We were looking for some place to have a recruiting event, and with COVID, it's been very difficult. The schools aren't allowing anybody in. The charter organizations are reluctant, so we thought an outdoor event would be the ticket where we could control the amount of people and have it, have it socially distanced. It's 5 tables that have information on it. So each family group will go from one table to the next table. The last table is where they can do the sign-ups. The council has decided not to go with computers, so there's no community keyboard. We're going back to paper applications. There'll be pens that are either throwaway or wipeable. They're supplying that. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to be in a meeting tomorrow, but that will be, everything will be clean and sanitary. There'll be hand sanitizer available. There will not be anything that they need. The 4 tables, they just look at. There's no need to touch anything. They'll be if there's information handed out, it will be handed to them individually and not just there to be picked up. It's an open house type of thing, so we don't expect, setup will be 11:30, cleanup will be after 3, but the event itself is 12 to 3, open house event. We don't expect a crowd to be there at any one time. There'll be people managing it. If there does happen to be a few extra people, we'll keep them 6 feet apart, each family group. And we would really ask for your consideration to have this event so we can keep Cub Scouting going in your community.
Thank you very much. And what is the age range for our Cub Scout?
It's 5 to 12, and it's open to boys and girls.
Very good. Thank you so much. At this time, I'll open it up to questions from the rest of the board, starting with Cece.
No questions.
Anita? I think you're on mute, Anita. I'm sorry.
At my work, that would cost me $5. So it seems like you've made some careful arrangements, and it sounds fine to me.
Thank you. I just want to add one thing. We have our own BSA requirements for COVID as well as the state. So we have to follow 2 very strict guidelines. So we are trying to be as careful as we can be. Masks will be required.
Greatly appreciated. Thank you. If we have no more questions, we'll move that the board vote to approve a request by the Mayflower Council District Boy Scouts of America to hold a 1-day outdoor Cub Scout joining event on Town Hill on Saturday, September 12th, 2020 from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a second, do we have any other further discussion? I am hearing none, so we'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
PC Van Tine, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
It is unanimous. Thank you very much again for joining, Christina.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You as well. That'll bring us to our next item this evening, which is to please discuss updates and additions to the select board policies. Blythe, some background, please.
Yes, so in your packet is quite a large stack of paper. Up till now, the town's procedure with the policies is to have both general policies that the board has, as well as HR policies, all in one document. And we have been taking a look at that for a couple of reasons. One included being that there was a sense by employees that we didn't really have an employee handbook per se of where all these things are centralized. So we've taken a look at all of that and decided that, that made sense, and we should divide these into a human resources employee handbook document with those sorts of policies there, and a more general select board policy handbook that has things like use of Town Hill and general the flag policy, and like I say, more general policies that affect not just employees, but how the town operates as a whole. Besides that, it's always a good idea to keep looking at the policies that we have and make sure that they're up to date and they're complete. And in doing so, over the last probably 6 months longer, we've identified that we needed a few new ones and we needed to update some. So in your packet specifically, before the 2 new versions of everything you've seen before are 6 policies. They're listed in your background memo: anti-discrimination, anti-harassment, and including sexual harassment policy, a code of conduct policy for town boards and committees, an employee safety policy, equal employment opportunity policy, fraud and theft prevention policy, and video monitoring policy. So Scott Bragdon has joined us on the call tonight, and because he's been doing the legwork on all of these, and our goal tonight was to introduce these to you, to have you start the discussion about them. And then our thought was that we would then send these out to all of the employees that they would affect and give them a chance to give feedback, as well as the various committees that the select board appoints, because those folks would need to adhere to some of these policies and give them a chance to weigh in, and then come back to the board in maybe a month, and with any feedback, any adjustments that we think are important to make, and ask you to approve them at that time. So that's kind of my lead off, and I wanted, if it's okay with you, I wanted to toss it over to Scott for any comments. As they say, he's been doing the legwork on these, and give you just a little thumbnail about each one. So Scott.
Absolutely, go right ahead, Scott.
Great. So we currently have an anti-sexual harassment policy, which is still required by law, but current best practices take that policy and include other types of other characteristics that are protected by law, such as race, color, religious creed, national origin, ancestry, sex, gender identity, age, et cetera, and the current best practice is that those get included as protected classes under our harassment policy. So that's the major difference in this. It has some updated legal wording. We were fortunate, we were able to speak to a discrimination expert and get some feedback on these policies, plus Mike Vaccaro, our labor attorney. But so that's the purpose of the redraft of this policy, is to include the other protected classes in that harassment policy. Do you want to ask questions, or you want me to go through them all and then have them, Kevin?
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
Okay, fine. So the second is a redrafted code of conduct policy for town boards and committees. We had a draft of this that's had some discussion before this board before. This one is a little more specific around the boards and which boards are covered, and their relation to conduct, and what their duties are, and they're to attend the meetings as best as possible, etc. And also lists some of the town policies that they would expect them to follow, such as the EEO policy, which I'm going to discuss in a minute, the discrimination policy, anti-bullying, electronic communications, fraud and theft, which I'm going to talk about. Also to comply with open meeting law, procurement laws, and ethics and conflict of interest statutes. So this redrafted policy goes into some detail around that. So if this is adopted by the select board, then this would cover all of the board's committees, etc., in this code of conduct. So one of the things that we're planning on doing is sending this out to the various boards to take a look at also and receive comment, as well as get comments from you folks. The next policy is an employee safety policy. I drafted this some time ago, but it kind of got backburnered with all of the COVID stuff. But as you may remember, a little over a year ago, the state passed an employment safety law for municipalities and state agencies, where essentially we need to follow OSHA guidelines. It's OSHA-like, I call it, because it's managed by the state, not OSHA, but the policies and practice is the same. Again, one of the best practices that the state talks about is having an employee safety policy, which this is. It talks about, as a policy statement, that we intend to have a safe and healthy work environment, things that prevent accidents. We take our employees' the safety it's very important to us, and we comply with the safety laws and regulations, etc. Also says we have a safety committee, which we do have. It requires employees to wear seatbelts in town cars, use safety gear. It requires that they have the proper licenses to use any of the town vehicles or equipment. And also ends by saying that we are in place here to serve the community, and there are emergency situations. And if your job is one that requires you to be part of that work during that emergency situation, we expect you to do so. There is a separate policy in the select board policies around inclement weather and what employees can do and not do if they aren't able to come to work. So the next policy is equal opportunity policy. This covers discrimination based on hiring and promotion specifically. Again, we are covered under these state and federal laws, whether we have this policy or not. But I think it is important for the town to overtly say that we are in support of these laws and to have a policy that says that to the public. So that's what this talks about, and it talks about the laws. Both of the discrimination policies, both the sexual harassment and other types of harassment in this policy, also give employees, if they don't get satisfaction from the town with their complaint, it gives them other places and information where they can go to get satisfaction to further their complaint. The next policy is a fraud and theft prevention policy. So you may say, why do we need that? It came clearly to my attention recently that if we don't have such a policy and we were to have an employee who left because of one of these things, left our employment, that the state would very likely approve unemployment for them, because they would say, well, you don't have a policy that says that's wrong. While that may seem counterintuitive, that is exactly what they would do. And so it is important that I felt that we have this. We are thinking about adding some wording in here about other types of crime. We don't want people to worry about everything, but if a crime that someone commits affects their ability to do their job or may affect the town in some significant way. We may want to have that in here also. So I am further investigating that. So that's why this policy is there. And then we have lastly, the video monitoring policy. This is something we don't have in place. In many of our facilities, we do have video cameras and we do, have signage to that, but there isn't any policy and procedure that says if we put in new cameras, on what basis do we do that, who has to approve it, where do they go, how are employees and citizens protected, if it needs to be viewed, who can view it and for what reasons, etc. So that's what this does. It puts together that procedure and oversight to make sure that we are doing this consistently across the organization. It also would require Blythe, once this is passed, to do a review of who has access to the video monitoring policy and to make a determination whether that list is too big, too small, whatever, and make a decision as to who can see that video. It also excludes the police department, one for their own protection in their own facility, but also it is, while I've never heard of this happen here, and don't expect that it would, they certainly, if they're conducting a criminal investigation, have the right to, one, access these cameras or do something of their own if they are getting the right documents from the courts and stuff to do that. So it does allow them to be able to do their jobs and doesn't prohibit that. So those are the new policies. We're not asking anyone to vote on them or anything tonight. We're going to be getting, we want you all to have time to think about it and ask questions. We can do some of that tonight, or as you reread them to do that in the future. Also to get them out to employees. We're going to discuss it tomorrow with the management team, Blythe's manager meeting, and we'll get them out to the other board and stuff, particularly the one policy, and get people's feedback. And as Blythe had said, we'll bring these back to you with comment, etc., and see how and what we want to change and move forward.
Thank you very much, Scott, for the time invested in putting this all together and the very detailed outline that you just provided. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
I think it's important to note that, as we go through the reasoning behind the creation of many of these policies is to not necessarily change behavior. I think that behavior is pretty much in line with what much of these policies outlines today. It's more to standardize that and outline it more clearly in what we have available to people as they come on board and they work here in town.
Right.
So with that, I will open it up.
I was going to say, Kevin, that's an excellent point. And one of the things when we add whatever policies we decide on into the HR document, we will send that out to all employees and ask them to sign off that they've read them and understand them. And it's our practice now to give these policies to new employees. So we'll have these documents and prepared.
Absolutely. It's not like working at an office that had an out of control Christmas party and all of a sudden the next day you see a new policy on Christmas parties. This is something just to solidify how people are acting today. So greatly appreciated. At this time, I'll open it up to questions from the rest of the board, starting with Anita.
I like the idea that this is being shared with the staff, so everybody has an opportunity to have a voice in that. I think that's really great. And thank you, Scott, for your time. It's, wow, a lot of work. And I don't have any questions at this time.
Thanks, Anita. Cece?
So I only have one question at this time, and it's just more of a general question. Like when we're going through the policies, if we see things like typos, that kind of thing, I'm assuming, I already have my red pen, love my red pen, commas missing, that kind of thing. Can we, I'm just throwing them, just doing it. So
absolutely.
Let me know, but But I did have a question. So in terms of, is this sort of ready for us to be doing that kind of thing? Because, you know, just as an example, and maybe I just don't understand it, but if you're looking at the introduction to the anti-discrimination and anti-harassment, including sexual harassment policy, which is the best name ever in terms of how many words it has. But, and we'll come up with an acronym at some point. But the first paragraph, sort of the introduction, right, when you're reading it, it says that the harassment consists of unwelcome conduct, verbal or physical, based on a characteristic protected by law, such as race, color, religion, religious creed, national origin, ancestry, sex, gender, gender identity, age, criminal record, inquiries only. See, it sort of switches from things that people are, such as their race, color, creed, or religion, to things that they're not. Like, there's no person who is a criminal record or a retaliation or a sexual harassment. Like, and I'm not sure how. Do you see what I'm saying? Like that whole paragraph just is like, it's just basically like every single conceivable thing, person, idea is just in the sentence. And I'm happy to break it out, or is somebody else going to do that? Or like,
So
I understand, but.
So we've kept Judith so busy on other things that we didn't give her a chance to get her mitts on these and put them in better shape. So I'd suggest, please, you know, send over your red lines that you have, and between those and her work, I'm sure we'll get them in good shape. That'd be great.
Because, and what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that I'm editing for content. In other words, I'm not saying, oh, this should be in and this should be out. I'm just seeing an opportunity to sort of break out. You have your protected classes by law. You have other instances where people ought to be protected, such as, like, that's all I mean.
Yep. No, that's great. And we would welcome that. And we will make sure that we work on those. I know there's other things that she wants to address in them, so I'm sure that they will get a little bit more of a scrub. I also want to just mention, before I lose the thought, that when we'd taken up the conduct policy the last time, there was concern about the responsibilities of the town clerk. We've spent a fair amount of time chatting, Scott has, with the town clerk, and she's very comfortable with the version that you have, and the limited responsibility that she'll have to follow up with people. So we've already tried to check that box.
Final question. If I'm redlining, do you want me to redline with my pen, or do you prefer, I prefer pen, but I'm happy if you wanted to send it to me in Word for me to actually redline.
Whichever is easier for you, Cece.
Well, it's the pen then.
It's the pen.
And that was it. That was
Thank you, Cece.
That's it.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open it up to anybody who has any questions or comments in attendance this evening. If you do, please use the raise hand function located under the participants icon on your bottom toolbar. I am seeing no hands. Blythe, anything else that you'd like to throw into this item before we move on? All right, well, thank you so much again, Scott, for joining and taking us through. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Our next discussion item this evening is to please discuss website posting of board correspondence. Blythe, anything that you'd like to provide for background?
Just that we're going to keep this item on the agenda each meeting, and so that should you all receive some emails that you'd like to discuss with each other and talk about posting, we have it automatically there to do. We're not assuming that we will each time, and in fact, tonight we don't have any new ones. But that's the genesis behind this item.
Anybody have any comments or questions related to this or the ongoing agenda item? I'm seeing two head shakes, so I'm not even going to go around the horn.
Kevin, if I could just ask, are there emails that you have or are about to publish?
Yes, we have 5 emails that we reviewed at our last meeting that were pending approval from the origination senders, which we received on all of them. So we do have a slate of 5 that we reviewed at our last meeting that will be going up.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep. I'm not seeing anything else, so we will move on to our next item, which is the town administrator updates.
So a couple of things. It's looking like we'll have a busy agenda at the next meeting. We've got the continuation of the dog hearing, which will kick off our meeting. And I haven't checked my email at this point, but I don't recall that we received the report from the expert for the owner at this point, but we're keeping an eye on that. We, staff's also probably ready to bring forward to you a draft of the updated animal control bylaw. You know, earlier this spring, back I think in April, it was noted that our bylaws weren't up to date with state law. I've been working with our ACO and the town clerk on that, and I think we've got a good version to run by you and see whether, what your thoughts are on that, whether we want to bring it forward this fall or wait till the spring to take it up at town meeting. Also making good progress on a much more detailed capital improvement plan for the board to look at. Last year, we got to the point of a spreadsheet of projects and dollars. This year, we're building that out into lots of detail about individual projects and an overview of where the town stands on its commitment to capital costs and financing, and so we can start to have a conversation about the future and how we're going to try to have a more measured approach to how we fund the things that we need to take care of. But I had a couple of questions from residents, a couple of phone calls in the last few days about train horns. So I thought it was a good chance to just tell everybody what we've learned about that. So I'm sure everyone's aware, or I think everyone's aware of the second track being installed. But from a slightly different neighborhood, we've gotten a few more calls. And what we've learned is that the track project's probably going to go on for at least a few more months. And they have posted our whole area as a construction zone. And whether construction is actually happening during the day or not, that generally means that train engineer will more than likely blow the horn when they're coming into that construction zone, or if they see somebody working. And that's been more than what people have been experiencing. Unfortunately, there's not anything the town can really do to stop that. And the construction is going on definitely 6 days a week, and I guess sometimes 7, though more limited hours on Sundays. So I just wanted to make people aware that we realize it's not enjoyable. It's an interference to your quiet neighborhood, and we're sorry for that, but it's probably going to continue for a while. So what's going on with that? And then there's 240B projects that are going to be headed your way in the next probably month or two. The 144 Seekonk Street project got approved in mid-August by the ZBA. That's going to require the select board to sign a memorandum of understanding about the particulars of the project and accept a gift of some money for some traffic mitigation. That'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. And then the Abbeville project, which is at the top of Lawrence Street near the Franklin line, is getting close to approval. That's still being negotiated by the ZBA and the developer, but that will probably also result in an agreement for the select board to sign off on. So I just want to let you know that that's coming. So those were the things I wanted to update everybody about.
Thank you very much, Blythe. You don't happen to have any updates on the progress of street paving, do you?
Street paving?
I know I probably should have asked that when Blair was on the phone. My apologies, but.
Yeah. So I think we're pretty much done. I know we still have to get back to Lake Street for the second final paving on most sections of that. There's a section that's kind of still up for in conversation. But that's got to be done. And I want to say there's still some work on Needham Street, but I'll have to check for you.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll throw it around to the rest of the board for any questions on Blythe's updates, starting with CC.
No questions.
Thanks, CC. Anita?
Nope, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open it up to any questions from those in attendance. If you have a question related to the town administrator's updates, please feel free to use the raise hand function at this time. I am seeing no hands. And with that, we'll move into our next item, which is to approve some warrants. It doesn't look like I'm getting out of it with one sentence this time, does it?
Yes, you are. Yep, one sentence. It's right at the bottom.
Oh boy. With that, I move that the board approves 6 warrants for the period June 16th, 2020 to August 25th, 2020 as printed on the agenda for this meeting. Beautiful.
Second.
Hearing a second, do we have any further discussion? I am hearing none, so we'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
CC Van Tine, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
And that is a unanimous vote. Thank you very much. And thank you, Blythe, for the sentence. That does it for our agenda this evening. Blythe, anything else you have for the open session portion of our evening?
Nope, just that you're gonna have a vote to go into executive session.
Thank you. CC, anything else for open session?
No.
Anita? I will just throw out there that the polls are open for another 11 minutes for those who have yet to vote in our state primary today. Special thank you going out to Town Clerk Carol Green, Assistant Town Clerk Anthony Turry for executing another safe and efficient in-person voting day. By the time we get to November, we should have this thing down pat. So thank you, everybody, including the poll workers as well. With that, I would move that the board enter into executive session under MGL Chapter 30A, Subsection 21A3 to obtain advice of counsel and discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation regarding the construction of the police station, insofar as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body, and invite Town Council Peter Mello, Blythe Robinson, and Judith Lazardi to participate. I also state that a public meeting would have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the public body. We'll take a roll call vote. Kevin Calcutt, aye.
CC Van Tine, aye.
Anita Mecklenburg, aye.
It is also important to note that we will not be returning to open meeting during the session. With that, thank you very much, and everybody have a great evening.